It's another edition of Time About the Movies. We're in the middle of July 1990. It's July 13th. And we have 4 movies to look at today. 3 are new releases. 1 is the Disney classic being re-released. But this weekend we had a movie that eventually would become a classic in and of itself. It's one of the most memorable romantic movies of all time. And it's a movie that has grown a little bit of appreciation from me over the years. So let's go ahead and talk about it. It was also one of the biggest hits of the year. It's Demi Moore, Patrick Swayze, and Whoopi Goldberg in Ghosts. So yeah, kind of like the Jetsons movie, I go back and forth on this movie. For the longest time, I always considered it a style over substance movie. There were things about it that I did like the performances by Moore, Swayze, and Goldberg. But I thought the visuals were a little too jarring and a little too uneasy for the time. Like, they look kind of dated. And I thought the rest of the movie itself was kind of okay, but nothing special. Like the story, the script I think could have been written better. But over the years, I have looked it over, and I have to admit that the movie does get a lot better over time. And I think I do appreciate it more and more as one of those great romantic films of all time. The thing I still like about it is that the cast is still pretty good. You could definitely believe the chemistry between Swayze and Moore, and that they would have the strong connection you can buy so easily. Whoopi Goldberg won an Oscar, of course, for her performance in this, and she does a good job here. You can see why she won the Oscar for this. You've got Tony Goldwyn playing a good antagonist in the film. Vincent Schiavelli, he's only in a couple of scenes, but he makes his parts memorable as well. Those visuals that I talked about that can be very jarring at times, but because this was filmed back in 1990, you can see more of the grainy film feel to it, like some of the stuff that feels very dated. It actually kind of works to the film's advantage. Like the shadowy demons in the movie, the ones that carry the people away in the movie, that could have easily been laughably bad because the visuals are not really all that good. The noises they make, man, the noises whenever they take somebody, it's downright scary, man. I actually heard stories about how they actually used babies crying and slowed it down in post-production to make it sound like more like demons. It's kind of cruel, but it makes for those creatures I was talking about. It makes them more scarier than they could easily be. They could easily be laughably bad because the visual look of them isn't all that special. But the fact that they have those noises there, it's just like it's creepy, man. It's creepy what they do in this movie. It still holds up. It still holds up to the very day. I love the ending of the movie where Carl sees Sam for the first time, and he's all happy, and then he turns around and he sees his dead body at the window, and he's just like, oh shit, I'm dead. And then the demons come and all that, and I like that you never see him get descended into hell. It's just implied. It's a great scene and a great climax to the movie. And, give a lot of credit to Jerry Zucker. This guy had been mostly associated with with his brothers, the crew behind the Airplane and the Naked Gun, the Police Squad. For his first solo outing as a director and a dramatic movie, nonetheless, he does a pretty good job with it. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think he's ever recaptured that same magic that he had before, because First Night, the movie he would make after this about 5 years later, didn't have that same effect, so he would have to go back to comedy. But he wasn't a bad dramatic director. It's one of those things where it's just like, I could see this guy directing more dramatic movies if he had gotten better material to work with. But, overall, Ghost, I think, has indeed improved over time. It's a movie that, it's dated, but it's the good kind of dated where you can look at it and be like, okay, this definitely works for the time period, and there's still a lot there that could work even for today. Like, I would think it's impossible to remake this movie today and do it in a modern setting, because I think it works perfectly the way it does here. It has some flaws to it. There's still some stuff in here that's kind of hit and miss, but it's still a pretty good movie overall. I would say I can see why it's considered one of the great romantic movies of all time, and you can see why it's what became one of the biggest hits of all time. So, that's Ghost for me. Let's move on to the next movie, and that is a re-release of a Disney animated classic, and that is The Jungle Book. Of course, The Jungle Book was the last movie made whenever Walt Disney was alive. He passed away in 1966. This came out over a year after that. So, it's one of those things where you could still see Disney's lasting effect on the movie because this was the last film he made while he was still alive. And The movie still holds up to this very day. It's a movie that I think really is one of the definitive classic Disney films. It's one of those movies where everything about it works. I mean, the songs are memorable. You can always look for a song in this movie to hum and listen to, or sing out loud for no particular reason. You just remember it. It's just like, okay, I don't feel like starting to sing it right now. But the characters are memorable as well. The animation overall is very well done. It's a perfect trifecta of everything coming together to make it for a version of the Rudyard Kipling story that's very different from the book, but still holds up to this very day, and made probably one of the only really good live-action Disney remakes in the 2016 Jungle Book, which really still holds up. Which I watched again recently. That film still was pretty damn good. Like it's very much the same movie as this, but they do so much here. But they do so much in that one that's different from that movie, and I think it does still hold up on its. It could definitely still hold up on its very own. And the original animated Jungle Book still is very good. It's a good Disney movie, a fun Disney movie. You can still see that magic that Walt Disney still had when they were making this movie. It's a classic movie. What more do I need to say about the original Jungle Book? So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. The second of two movies Renny Harlin directed over the course of a week that went into theaters, and that was The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. And needless to say, unlike Renny Harlin's previous film, Die Hard 2, this was not a big success by any means. It's kind of a disappointment when you really look at it because, Andrew Dice Clay showed that he had some acting chops prior to this in Casual Sex, but in this movie and then the next movie he made, Dice Rules, it was him going back to that shtick that he did as a comedian that was very hit and miss, and it just doesn't really work here in this movie. You can tell that they were trying something here. There were some elements here where it does look like they're trying to go for like an over-the-top action comedy, something like Buckaroo Banzai in a way. But I don't know, it doesn't work as well as it does. You have a great cast here. Wayne Newton, Priscilla Presley, Morris Day, Robert Englund, Ed O'Neill, Tone Loc. Just this great cast, and one of the co-writers is Daniel Waters, who also wrote Heathers. And it just doesn't work here. I mean, it's a movie that I think has a lot of intentions to it that could make for a pretty fun, over-the-top action comedy, but it's just not there because the leading actor isn't really all that convincing. He's just playing Andrew Dice Clay, the comedian, as an actor, as a character that's not even all that good. It's a mess of a movie. It's a movie that I think had good intentions, but as you look at it as a movie, it just doesn't really pan out as well as I think they wanted it to, and it quickly crashed and burned at the box office, even though one of the songs from the soundtrack, Billy Idol's Cradle of Love, actually became one of the biggest hits for the year that year. So I guess that's something there, but yeah, more people went to see Harlan's other movie, Die Hard 2, for a reason, because this movie wasn't particularly all that good. So with that said, let's get on to the last movie, and that is Bill Murray in the comedy Quick Change, which he also co-directed. Honestly, I think because this movie had two directors, Murray and also Howard Franklin, who would later direct Murray again 6 years later in Larger Than Life, and also would do The Public Eye with Joe Pesci. But because you have these two different directors here, I think it really hurts the overall feel of the movie because you have these two very different directors. I don't know if they had like their own different opinions of what this movie should be like, but when you have two different directors together, it's not really going to end up all that well. Take, for example, Nutcracker in the Four Realms, when you had Joe Johnston and Lassie Hallstrom working together, and that movie just completely fell apart because of the two different directors they had. On the plus side, though, this movie is actually pretty funny. There are funny moments in here. I think the biggest problem with the film is that the overall script isn't really all that exciting. It's just kind of a movie that's just like, it has a lot of funny moments, just the story just isn't working its way through here. I think what does work here are the performances. You got Bill Murray playing in clown makeup most of the film, and as he's robbing a bank, and you have Gina Davis and Randy Quaid as the sidekicks in this movie, as well as Jason Robards as the cop that's trying to go after them. And there are a lot of funny moments in the movie. I just wish that the story had been better executed. I feel like this is a story that you can tell where it's going to go. You can tell where it's going to be. You can tell what's going to happen in the next couple of as the movie goes on, and it just doesn't really work out as well as I think they wanted to story wise. But the laughs are there. There are a lot of good funny moments here, and I think with a better direction and a better script that would have with a little bit more twists and turns, I feel like you could have had something really good here. But what you get here is perfectly fine for what it is. It's a movie that is good for what it is, but really could have been a lot better with a better script and again better writing. But there are a lot of good laughs here. The cast works very well, so I'd say definitely check it out if you want to. Quick change. So with that said, let's get a wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time around, we go to July 20th with 3 movies out, including the Spider action movie. I don't even know if it's an action movie, honestly. It's the Spider movie Arachnophobia. We also have Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen, and we also have probably one of the most underrated comedies of the year, Marlon Brando and Matthew Broderick in The Freshman. If you haven't heard about this movie, it's going to sound stupid, but because of what it is, it's actually a lot better than you may think it is. We'll definitely delve into that, along with our Arachnophobia and Navy SEALs next time around. So, thank you guys for watching, and as always, if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another new episode. So thank you for watching, I'll see you guys tomorrow, and until then, take care.